So mine is, just give me a minute, troubleshooting. So we want to test. Test, 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 test. Test, 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 test. Test, 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 test. Test, 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 test. Okay. All right. Can anyone hear me yet? All good now. Oh, all good. You got me. Ah, sound. Okay. Jeepers. Talk about give me stress when I just go and load on 10 minutes before and spend 15 minutes because things don't work the same. Bradley, I need you back. Something's gone wrong. Hello, everyone. I've missed everyone there now before, but who knows? Who knows? You know what I'm like with technology. All good. All right, we've got quite a few people here while I've been trying to troubleshoot and get things working. Who knows what happened? Yes, this is my new coat. Remember I said last week we went out to Richmond and I was forced to spend money to buy this coat, so I thought I would wear it. See, it's a long coat, and it is nice and warm. So hello to everyone I missed there while I was trying to get some sound working and some picture unfrozen. God knows what happened this time. Who would know? Okay. I honestly don't have much to show you tonight because I didn't go into the shop and Joe didn't send a lot home because there's not a lot of new things. So I've found a few things, but Jen, what are we having? I could be forced to buy it as well. And even more better, Catherine, is that it was 30% off. So there you go. That sold it to me. And there were a few left in the shop, but not the right size for anyone else. But yes, there was some there, and it was 30% off, so it wasn't ridiculous either. Hi, Susie. Yes. Okay, gin. I really need some gin after that. We're just having a Taylor's gin tonight. It's just a Taylor's London gin. It's made here. Bentley, shush. Right in Moona, so just up the road a little bit, and they have these cool little bottles, and they have little miniature ones too. So, I wonder. So, was that in the Quilter's Companion magazine or the Homespun? Has that come out? Has it? Oh, I was told it wasn't going to be till September. First of all, I was told July, and then I was told September. So obviously it has come out, has it? That's the one using the Tilda Wallflower fabrics, is it? And it's sort of like French applique, sort of brocadey cushion, if that's the one. Yes, of course you were, Julie. Of course you were forced to. Anyway, so I've got my Taylor's gin, which I desperately need tonight. After that start, we've gone on okay for a little while. And I've just got a bit of 2-day-old lime in my glass, so it's a bit sad, but Shed Guy was in the bathroom and I was trying to troubleshoot, and it is what it is. Okay, so happy gins to you. Oh, I think I put more gin than I had soda water. I might have to get a bit more for that. And maybe some fresh lime would be better than 2-day-old piece of lime in there. I'm very spoilt with lots of fresh limes, but I tend to just slice some, put them in my cup, and then just keep refilling for a few days. Good as companion. Okay, so it must be out. Oh, well, that's nice to know. Originally, it was a really urgent one. It was going to be June or July, and then when I asked, they said it would have been pushed back to the September one. So obviously it was the July one, but maybe it was just late coming out. All right, well, we're good to go with that. So I think we've got kits cut and ready to go with that. But of course, because it was an urgent one, and I stitched it heading to Perth while I was in Perth teaching earlier in the year, I shipped it straight off and didn't take any photographs of it, so I can't show anyone until I get it back or I get a copy of the magazine. But I will now check that the kits are up on the website ready to go. Okay, so that's my gin. Now, what have I got to show you? As I said, not a lot. So just a bit of a chat tonight. But first of all, we're finally getting, I think I showed you a long time ago, Tilly's doing some stitch redesigns in the hope that she can earn some money. But it's nice that she's actually asked for stuff to stitch in her downtime, which is not very much, not a lot of downtime, but she is stitching, which is good to see. I did send her a big package of goodies that got stolen from her letterbox, so we're still fighting it out with Australia Post for that because they left it in an unsafe spot, but they still won't replace it, just the shipping. Hi, Jenny. You're having, hang on, what are you having? Bramble gin and raspberry tonic. Oh, it sounds nice. Tracy posted today, my sister Tracy, she was, well, I don't know, last I heard she was in Broken Hill, but today she seemed to be in Renmark. And it was raspberry and finger lime gin, so that sounded very nice. I have to get some of that. Anyway, back to the Tilly May stitcheries. So she did the drawings. You know, it's all right for her to say she's going to design the stitcheries. She did the drawings, and I've stitched them and put them up onto the website. So there was the conch shell. So quite simple, but hi Vicky and Maggie, hi. And I've just used a Cosmos Seasons variegated thread for each of them, so to make life really easy. And I think you helped me choose this colourway when I was showing you that many months ago. So there's that one. And then there is the seahorse. So a nice bright variegated one I used for that in all rainbow seahorse colours. So these are just download patterns, PDF downloads that you can, they're quite simple to trace on a light box. So we don't have iron-on transfers for them at this stage. But nice little simple stitcheries, maybe for the younger market. And the whales. So 2 different whales there. I can't tell you what sort of whales they are, but they are 2 different whales, she may know. And then the jellyfish, which I'm told is meant to go sort of that way, I think. So there's the jellyfish with a little bit of seaweed attached to it. And then the octopus. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes, 8 legs. And again, just in a Cosmos Seasons variegated thread. So just simple little stitchery designs that you could use for all manner of things. And Hazel's put them up on the website. No, she hasn't. Yes, she has. Here, I'll put the link in for you. Oh, that is not the right link. She has not put the right link in there. If Donna or Joe or anyone's watching, can you check the link in, please? She hasn't done the right link. Oh, there it is. Gone in now. Okay, I must have tapped the wrong thing. It has gone in. Sorry about that. Okay. So, anyway, what I thought I'd talk to you today about is all the different things that I like to use as far as hoops and why, and hoops and threads. And then next week I'm going to talk to you about stabilizers and battings and things like that. Hi, Rosie. Yeah, they're a nice little selection of simple stitchery designs that are just fun to do. Right, so hoops. Obviously, there's the all-day, everyday bamboo hoops. These are sort of reasonably inexpensive, and they come in all different sizes. Now, whilst these are perfectly okay to use, I don't tend to use these for when you're stitching. So I use those for framing a hoop, for an artwork more than actually stitching. I started out with a wooden hoop like this. They break quite easily. This one's already been split by the looks and glued. But what you can do is wrap them in a cotton tape just to protect them, because the oils and everything of your fingers tend to go into the bamboo hoop and then onto your fabric and leave marks on your fabrics. And they also don't hold very well. They slip quite easily. And yes, you can do them up really tight, but if you do them too tight, you can split the wood as well. So you can use these for stitching in if you're just going to do the one project that it comes with. But then I usually just use these for framing. So there's a little 3-inch and a 4-inch and a 6-inch. 6-inch is quite common, and 6-inch will fit all of those embroideries. So we made them to fit a 6-inch hoop. So you can do something just as simple as stitching it and putting it in a hoop, and then you've got some wall art. So you can see they're all designed to fit in a 6-inch hoop like that. Where's our shell? Here's our shell. I like the shell. That one just fits. So they're the bamboo hoops. Again, they're cheap. They can be used as a hoop for stitching, but more I would use those to frame your hoops in. Then we go to the plastic type of hoops. Now, these ones are my favourite. I've shown you those before. Again, they're probably the least expensive. And they were originally designed for punch needle, so we had to get a really, really tight stretch on it. Carleen, no, we won't be doing it. The shop will be open though, but we won't be actually moving the shop down the road just for the sake of it. We're popping in to look at the quilts, obviously. So anyway, these plastic hoops have the little rim on the top, and I've showed you before how you put that rim, it should say this side up or top on it somewhere. It says top there, and you put the rim on the top, and then when you put your fabric in, you pop it over so that that rim pops out the top and locks in your fabric really tightly in between that rim and the outer hoop. And you can do that up as tight as you like, and you're not going to break it. You're not going to snap the wood. You're not going to break it. And it's also plastic, so the oils and dirt that on your fingers don't seep into the wood and then seep into your fabric as well. So they're my favourite hoops. They come in 6-inch, and we usually have them in a 3 or 4-inch as well. There's lots of other little ones that are similar. Again, I still think the plastic is better than the bamboo for actually using for stitching. This one has a double rim there, so it locks. Where are we? It locks in between those two ridges quite firmly, and then the outer hoop has got this middle ridge there. You can see that will lock your fabric into, if we can get it in there, into the channel of the inner hoop, and that should lock it in really tight as well. So they are a so easy hoop. That's just a little 3.5-inch. And then this one is the same sort. It's a birch one though, and that's a 5-inch. So depending on what size work you're working on, if you're just working on a small piece of fabric with one little stitchery in the middle of it, like some of the Natalie Bird pre-printed stitcheries and things like that, then a little one like that is quite good because you can get everything in it and you haven't got much fabric on the outside. I tend to mostly work with a 6-inch hoop, but if I was only doing a little piece, I'd either have to cut my fabric bigger or add some fabric on the outside so it would reach the edges of the 6-inch. So sometimes I will switch to a 3 or a 4-inch and just do those little tiny ones in those because it's really easy to manage. Now, I've shown you before how I stitch, and I use a scoop stitch, so I need to use my finger underneath to push the needle up. So a 6-inch is about the biggest that I can go, got short fingers, so that I can reach the middle all the time. And I think a 6-inch is a really good size. Sometimes you can use an 8, but the smaller you go, the tighter you can keep your work and the more visibility you've got. So, and remembering that using a hoop is for the health of your hands. So it's basically like an extra hand that's holding the fabric out nice and taut so that you don't have to hold it out like that and put all that stress on your fingers and up your arm holding your fabric out so that you can see where to stitch it. So you're really using it as an extra hand to save all the muscles up your wrist and your shoulder and your neck, and also so that you can get good visibility and good tension in your work. Now, there is this sort of hoop as well, which is quite commonly found. It's easy to put your fabric in and out. You just squeeze these two little togs and it opens it, and then you squeeze it into the inside channel. I don't like them at all. I don't like them for a couple of reasons. One, I find that you just can't get as taut and flat. But secondly, whether you've got that on the top or on the bottom, for me, anyway, every single time you pull a needle and thread through, it gets hooked around those loops and you unthread your needle all the time. So, yeah, so that's why I personally don't like them, but I know they're very commonly found. A lot of people do, each to their own, but I'm just giving you the reasons why I don't. As I said, Murphy's Law is every single stitch my thread's going to get caught around there, and either I'm going to keep sewing and not realise I've got a big loop, or I'm going to unthread my needle by getting it caught on those loops. Yes, you can get them caught on this little bit here too, but if I try and turn around and work away from that, then you can avoid that a lot more than you can on this one when it's on the underside like that. You can have it on the outside, but so you can see where it is, but then it just gets in the way, I think. So I really don't like them at all. But yes, mainly for stitching health. There's 3 reasons we use a hoop. We use it for visibility, so everything's nice and flat and you can see exactly where the next stitch has to go, particularly in these hoops where that rim lifts it up above the hoop, so you've got great visibility. 2 is your tension, so that you know when you're pulling stitches you're not actually puckering up your fabric because it's nice and flat and it'll keep your tension very even. And 3, but probably the most important one, is stitching health. So having that as your hand, literally you're just resting it on your hand there, and there's no pressure on these fingers trying to hold that fabric out like that so that you can see where you're going. The other time I think that I just could not do it without it is any knot stitches. When you have to drop your hoop and use 2 hands to do like a colonial knot or a bullion knot and have it in the hoop, that's holding your fabric exactly where you want it, while you can actually use 2 hands to do your wraps and your knots and things like that. So they're the hoops we have. And yes, good thinking, Joe. I've still got mine here from last week, but it's got no magnets on it. If you've got that little hook, remember the grime saver we showed you last week, then you can just put that over there so it's not going to get hooked on your little hook all the time. So yeah, there's that as well, our little grime saver that I showed you last week. Yes, Caroline, I just think your tension is so much easier, so much more even when you're in a hoop. There's plenty of people that stitch without a hoop and they do beautiful work, but personally me, they're the reasons why I would never do it without it. And again, mainly that I already have back and neck and shoulder issues, so I don't need any more golfer's elbow on this one and rotator cuff on this one and everything else as we're getting old, so I want to keep stitching as long as I can. Now, Denise, it wasn't on last week, and I'd have to check if she's done it. I sent all the information to go up, but I'm not sure if it went up. I will check again tomorrow that went up, and I will put a message on the Facebook page when it's up with a link to it for you. Sorry, I think it was you that I was getting back to on that, wasn't it? Oh, well done, Melissa. I know plenty of people can, but I just can't do it as well without it. I do all my applique without a hoop, but yeah, not embroidery in any way. And cross stitch too. I do remember when I very first started cross stitch, when I was like 18, first joined the army, and it's probably even earlier than that actually. I probably did it at home, and I wasn't using a hoop and knew nothing about it, and I almost had it's like the old piano teacher with the rule and knock over the knuckles, wrapping over the knuckles. It's like cross stitch. It's a deadly sin if you do that without a hoop, particularly to get very even stitches in cross stitch as well. Thank you, Sharon. Yes, this was my purchase last weekend. Remember I said. Yeah, Joe, I don't know if it went on the website though. I put all the information up in blue last week, and I'm not sure when I did the pattern. I'm not sure if she's put it up on the website. But yeah, Shed Guy has them in the list to start cutting tomorrow, so they're ready and the pattern's done. But I'm not sure if it's on the website. Bentley, what are you finding really? Okay, so that was hoops. Now I want to talk a little bit about threads. So first of all, embroidery threads. The embroidery threads that we stock and use. Okay, let's go full zoom. Right, so my most favourite embroidery thread always was, for a long time, this Presentia 16 weight pearl thread. Now, Presentia is it is a Italian thread, and so my most favourite embroidery thread always was. Gosh, my phone decided just to start working. Hi, Michelle. And I ran into these people in the bar at the hotel the first year I went to market, and they sent me a full set collection of it, and I've used it ever since. So it's a 16 weight, which is equivalent to 1.5 strands of a stranded floss. Okay. So from a lot of my stitchery designs, particularly all the earlier ones I did, it was the perfect weight to cover my transfer lines in my stitchery designs, and it's a pearl, so there's no splitting of threads or anything. It's just one nice, lovely, can't see that very well, maybe you can see it better on white. Let's go to white. One nice, shiny pearl thread. Okay, so that's the pearl 16, equivalent to 1.5 strands of a stranded cotton. And it comes in, I don't know, about 120 colours, something like that. And we used to also have the Presentia stranded cottons, but we've recently changed to the Cosmo stranded cottons, mainly because our Australian distributor stopped doing Presentia, and we have to get these direct from the US now, which, adds tariffs and shipping and all the rest of it. And we have a wonderful supplier of Cosmo threads that we can get in at any time. So we've switched completely to the Japanese Cosmo stranded flosses. And if you might remember, 6 or 7 years ago, I actually designed a whole range of seasons threads for Lycian, and I designed it so that I could have my red, my variegated red that I use all the time. Because when they dye a thread, they won't put it out unless it's bleach free. So not only run like washable, it's also bleach free. In other words, you can bleach it and it won't lose its colour. So and you won't get any dye run out of it. So Cosmo has about 500 plain colours. It's got a beautiful sheen. It is just a standard 6-stranded floss, so same as DMC, Anchor, Presentia, all of them. And then they have their seasons range, which there's 5,000 and 8,000 range, which is the variegated. And the variegated, they either have the 5,000 range have they have like more gradual variegations, and I know the 13 colours that I did, it was all the colours in one colorway, so like lots of shades of pink. And instead of being stop start from one color to the next, it was a gradual dyeing process from one to the next. And then the other ones, like the one I used on the seahorse, they have lots and lots of colors in the one strand, in the one skein. So you can see this one goes from that lime green right up to the bright pink and all the colors in between. So the seasons are pretty cool. They're nice threads. And then the main stranded ones, as I said, come in about, I think there's about 500 colours. And we do have the DMC conversion charts as well, and you can find them everywhere online if you search DMC to Cosmo. And you know what I think you could do now? You could go into ChatGPT with your DMC floss numbers and say, please give me the equivalent Cosmo stranded thread numbers, and I reckon that would work it out for you, and you wouldn't have to do all that searching. Okay, then in the 6-stranded floss, we also have the Cottage Garden hand-dyed threads. So thank you, Gail. So these ones, most of you would know, they're from Cottage Garden Thread in country Victoria, all made in Australia. They hand dye them all there. Very labour intensive. They've been around for quite some time now. And they do me a Hugs and Kisses red, 1007 Hugs and Kisses red. Lots and lots of beautiful colours, and they're all sort of named after things you'd recognise. So this one is Forget Me Not. Now, they are pre-cut, so if I untwisted that, it would pull out to about there, and they're pre-cut in lengths. So some people, they find the lengths are just a little bit short, but it just means you have to rethread your needle more often. But they have beautiful soft colours right up to bright, vibrant colours and everything in between. So that's the Australian hand-dyed ones. No two are ever going to be the same. We only have the signature range now in the Cottage Garden. They have lots of specialty ranges, but we just keep the signature range in the stranded threads. They also do a Pearl 12 weight, which is very similar to this 16 weight, just a slightly bit thicker. And that we just stock that in our Hugs and Kisses red because, again, the pearl is lovely and shiny and silky to work with. But we don't have room to have the whole range in pearls as well. So we only have the Hugs and Kisses red. All right. Another embroidery thread we have now is the Wonderful 12 weight spaghetti threads. That's right, Melissa. It probably is. She's just saying a shorter thread means less knotting. And the length of the Cottage Garden probably is the right length because it really should be fingertip to elbow. But we're all a little bit guilty of going a bit longer of that and hoping that it doesn't knot and tangle, but not too much longer. So it does make you stick to what you should do, and they're lovely to use. Okay, so the Wonderful spaghetti thread is a 12 weight thread on a spool like this. Now, Aurifil also have a 12 weight, and you may remember I had an Aurifil box for our 365 program, the Stitch Therapy 365 program, and I did that whole quilt in the Aurifil 12 weights, but now we are stocking the Wonderful 12 weights, and so can go through a needle, just your same stitchery Hugs and Kisses stitchery needle, or it can go through your sewing machine. If you struggle with it in your sewing machine, just go to a larger needle, use at least an 80, if not a 90, and just play with your tensions if you're struggling with it, but it goes through it pretty nicely just on its own. So hi Robin. So yeah, the spaghetti threads are lovely for hand embroidery or on the machine. Really nice to do some more big stitch quilting by machine if you're adding, or by hand, but making the stitching a feature if you're doing it by machine. So they're lovely. Look, Joe's given me all the samples in pinks. That was clever, wasn't it? Look at that. So that's all our hand embroidery threads. Now, oh, I forgot that's pure gin. Now, I want to go on to what I use for applique and EPP. Right, so we have got That's the Polyfast. And that's the confetti. All right, so for applique and EPP, as you know, you've seen my little thread holder here, which needs a bit of friendly maintenance. Needs a bit more glue and some new spools in there. It's all run out, but these are my little threads that I use all the time. And you may remember I used to use the Superior Bottom Line thread, which is this one here. And that is a 60 weight polyester 2-ply thread. So it's strong and it's fine. And you can use this in your needle, in an applique needle. Just home from manual handling. Oh, I'm assuming that was manual handling training, Ange. You weren't actually manually handling some random guy down the pub or something, hopefully. Hi, Janine. So this is the Superior Bottom Line in a 60 weight. And whilst that's still fine, I switched over to Wonderful instead, again, supply. So during COVID and then for quite some time after, we lost all our supply chain of the Superior bobbins, and then they came back quite a bit more expensive. In the meantime, we have a wonderful Australian supplier of Wonderfil, so all their threads are great and their price point is really good, so we've switched. But we do still have some Bottom Line. This is a really good blending colour, just this sort of champagne colour, so that will work with any colours that you're working with. And of course you can use it on your machine, and you can use it in your bobbin because it is a bobbin line designed for very dense quilting. You can use it in your machine in the bobbin, so that when you're quilting very densely, you're not getting a really stiff, thick, dense quilt. Okay, so that is the 60 weight, but what I use mostly now is the 80 weight deco bobs. So some of you might be saying, why am I using a poly? So for EPP, you need to pull your stitches very, very tight so that you don't get daylight between your shapes. And if I use cotton for that, then 2 pulls and it just snaps straight away. Whereas because the Deco Bob is an 80 weight poly, it's probably almost the finest you can get. You can get 100 weight in the Invisifil, but I find I can break that as well. But I know a lot of people use 100 weight, but I use the 80 weight because I can get a really tight tension without it snapping. And of course I can also use it in the machine. And I also use it for applique. So I just use the same thread for EPP and applique. So I can't use a cotton thread for EPP. It'll just snap. So I might as well just use the same for both. And because I also have quite tension on my tight tension on my applique as well. Because when you're pulling that stitch through, if you give it a little tug and pull it tight, then if your stitch is correct, the little fine bit of thread will just sink into the weave of the fabric, and you won't see any applique stitches either. You just will not see any. So it comes in individual bobbins. We have our favourites tube like this. It comes on the reels, and you saw my reel in my thread holder that was run out. So if you just had a couple of these reels, they would last you probably for the next 10 years if you're a prolific hand piecer and EPPer. So that's what I use for that. Katja Marek, who you might know her from Canada, does a lot of English paper piecing. She uses the 100 weight Invisifil from Wonderfil, so she uses the finer one again, but I just stick with the 60 weight, and that's really good. Okay, also from Wonderfil we have the confetti, which is the 50 weight cotton, Egyptian cotton. So that's what I would be using for piecing. 40 or 50 weight. 40 is a bit thicker again, so it's a bit stronger. The 50 weight is fine. So I use that for piecing, and I'd also use that for light quilting as well. But piecing, confetti for your piecing, or quilting, you can use that as well. Then we also have the Polyfast. So it's another Wonderfil product, and these are poly. So they are Polyfast, 1,000 meters, 40 weight poly. And these are great for machine applique or machine embroidery or just machine quilting and embellishments. So they're a really good price. I think they're only $6.95 for the cone, $6 or $7.95, and yeah, a beautiful range of colours. So we have those ones as well. You might remember when I did the big modern hexie cushions that I use these. I use those for all the decorative quilting on top. What's Jeanette saying? Which is preferred for hand piecing? So I don't do a lot of hand piecing, but I would either use your 50 weight or, again, I would still just use the poly. I would use the Deco Bob or the bottom line for hand piecing, but I'm not an expert on hand piecing. I have to ask Karen Styles. What I know she did tell me what she uses, and I can't remember now. But yes, again, a blending colour and nice strong thread. Now, one I did miss in the embroidery threads is the eleganza. So we also have the range, the full range. I think it's the full range. I'm moving at the full range, the small unit of the Pearl 8 cottons in the eleganza. So these are the ones that Wendy Williams and Sue Spargo use a lot in all of their embroidery. Hi, Judy. Hi, Susan. Missed you. So you would have seen me in the last 6 months using the Pearl 8s a lot. I use them in all the on cushions when I did the hand quilting, the big stitch quilting. So, yeah. What thread did I use for my shirt dress? Eek. I just have cones of thread, either a grey or a cream, on my machine, and I think I used a cream Wonderfeel cone of, I actually think it was their long arm thread. I think I've just about run out of it. So, yeah, can't tell you exactly. But it was a cotton, though. It was definitely a cotton, and it would have been about a 40 weight, 40 or 50 weight, so a nice strong one. Hello, Brenda. Now, the last thread to show you that we use a lot is if you're doing, sorry, it's back to front. If you're doing our applique method by machine, we use the monopoly. So that's the Superior monopoly. It's a monofilament polyester thread, very fine. You can get it in clear and in dark. I usually only ever use the clear. And I use that at the top and in the bobbin, and that's how I do all my machine applique if I'm doing it by machine with that. So they're the threads that I don't live without. Quite a range. I probably don't use the Cottage Garden as much now, but all the rest, yeah, I use. And there's a few other ones too. There's like a Superior have a So Fine, like a 100 weight thread, and I think it's So Fine is 100 weight. It's a very fine one when you're doing really really heavy dense quilting you don't want to show up. And I'll show you what I mean. So on that, put all those away. Put that one. All my hoops away. To go back to Joe. Right. I finished quilting, and I half finished the binding, the red and white quilt, which I named today, and now I can't remember what I named it. I finally came up with something, and it was nothing that anyone had said. What? Oh, I can't remember what I named it now. Devonshire Dreams, I called it. The old scones, jam and cream. So Devonshire Dreams, I called it. Can you iron monopoly? Yes, Jeanette, you can. Some of the old nylon invisible threads would melt when you iron them, but this is a high heat resistant poly thread. So yes, I iron it all the time, and I've never been able to melt it. So not a problem at all. So this one, I've just seen a couple of threads I haven't sewn in yet. Thought I had them all. I just did a grid straight over the stitchery designs. Okay. Sorry, buddy. I just put my gin all over the dog. All right. Anyway, so I did a grid straight across all the stitchery. Now, I had done hours and hours and hours of work on all these stitcheries. Sorry, buddy. You're not going to come back to me now, are you? And it was quite scary to just quilt straight over all that embroidery. But because I used a really fine, it was either 100, I think it was 100 weight thread. I'll go all the way in again. You actually can't see it. You can't see like a little bit of white going over the red thread at all. So I'm just going, when I wash out those marks, I'm just going to get the gridded sort of texture, and hopefully the actual embroideries are still going to just look like their drawings that they were, and it won't be a problem at all. So I did, so I gridded all the backgrounds of these. First of all, I ditched all the, it's all over the floor. He can lick it up. That'll make him sleep well tonight. So first of all, I ditched everything. I did the longest vertical and horizontal rows I could first, ditch them to keep everything in place. Then I ditched all of the stitch redesigns, and then I went back and did the fill stuff. So I did the grids over the stitcheries. I just ditched around the outside of all the circle appliques. Okay. And then lastly, on my outer border, I just did some straight line quilting. You can just see there, I just did some straight line quilting in that narrow outer border. And then I went back in with my, oops, it's all pinned, back in with my free motion foot and a red thread. Now, had I had a finer red thread, I would have used a finer one, but I didn't. I only had probably a 40 weight, but that's all right. It was a pretty good match. So I just went back and did all the plain red with some little swirly things. Can you see the texture in that? The light's a bit bright on it, isn't it? It's coming up a bit bright. Let's go right in again. You can sort of see the texture on it. Oh, I've quilted all my swirls on there. Anyway, once I've got it finished and I hang it up finished and photograph it, you'll see what I've done. So I've just got half to finish the binding tonight. Yes, I'm going to have to use lots of colour catchers because I didn't pre-wash my thread. I didn't pre-wash my fabrics, and it's red and white. So I'll be using a whole pack of colour catchers on this one and holding my breath until it comes out. Okay, so the last thing, because I'm halfway through binding it, I thought, well, I would just demo the binding again if I can find where I'm up to. I think I've done it on camera a couple of times before, but let's do it once more. Right, so I sew my binding to the front, trim my quilt back to half an inch from the stitch line because I'm using a 1/2 inch binding and I wanted my batting to go all the way filled into there. So you can see that I stitched it. I attached it to the very edge of my quilt, but I trimmed an extra 1/4 inch out so that I've got enough backing and batting to make sure my binding is full when it was a 1/2 inch binding. And it's not floppy on the edges. It's nice and tight and full. And then I just go around the whole quilt because I've just got enough pins. I just use pins. You can use binding clips and all sorts of things, but I just use my pins. Bentley doesn't like it if it's on my lap and I'm dragging it across him, but yeah, so I find that's the easiest. The backing, yes, the backing was cool, except that I cut it, specifically took it in on Saturday and cut it while I was at the shop in that horrible weather, and somehow when I got home I had cut it 10 inches too short. So I still then, I mean, I had plenty there, I could have done it, but I still then had to go and find some scraps and piece a bit of extra onto the width of the backing. But yes, the backing is perfect, isn't it? There's not a lot left, so I probably shouldn't show it when we sell it because everyone else is not going to be able to have the same backing. but it's good, isn't it? I have no idea where it came from. I think we've had it for ages and it's never sold. Now suddenly it will. Right, then I'm just using, again, red poly thread, one of my bobbin threads, and I'm just using a stitchery needle. And we just start with a knot. Let's go in here. Right, I'm up to here. Where am I on the thread? On the thing here, up to here. So I'm just going to go in away from where I'm up to, come out. Now I'm just going to mirror that because I can't look at it backwards. Right, that's looking better to me. Right, so I've gone in away here, and then I'm just going to pop my knot through. So, oops, I popped it through twice so that that's in between the layers of fabric. If my tail's too long, which it is, I'll just trim that off. Then, just as if I'm appliquing, I come up and go straight down, slide along, catch the edge of the binding. Straight back down, slide along. So it's exactly the same as my applique stitch. So you pull it through, get a bit of a tug, and the tiny bit of thread on top will sink into the binding. Now you choose a thread that matches your binding, not the quilt, because that's where you're going to see the little bit of thread on the top. Straight up, straight down, same hole, move along. Pinch it all close so you've got control of it. And I'm going from right to left, and I'm going in towards my binding rather than trying to go that way and get into it. I'm going in this way. I've seen a lot of people do it completely backwards, and I don't know how they do it. It just seems so awkward to me, but if it works for you, and again, I'm just showing you the way it works for me. Must be binding night. I'm doing the same thing. Yes, binding is good. I got half of it done last night, but I had a couple of other jobs to do first. And a bit of phone scrolling and wasting time, remember, of course. So once you get on a roll, you will get through that fairly quickly. Straight down, slide along. Just make sure you're only going through the backing fabric. You're not going through to the front. Otherwise, you'll have big long stitches on the front where you've slid along. So you just want to scoop it through the backing fabric. Get nearly to the next pin and just take that out, drop that on your magnet and keep going. And that's how I do my binding until I get a knot in my thread, which I'll deal with in a minute. So when you get to your corner, you do yours opposite, but you'll try that. Yeah, Susan, I've seen a lot of people do it opposite, but for me it just looks so unnatural and so awkward. But each their own. So my front is already mitered from when I sewed my corner here. And then obviously when I fold it to the back, I want to make sure I get a matching miter right to the point into there, so they're both matching at my stitch line, and I'll just pull that and ease that to make that perfect when I'm stitching it down. That's my mitered corner. Now I have also sewn a sleeve into it. Joe, you'll be happy. I did the binding on the machine. Yeah, and I can never get it as perfect on the machine, and I actually like doing the binding, so I don't mind. So I've sewn my sleeve into the top. So when I make a sleeve, I cut my piece of fabric 10 inches, and I usually cut it the width of the quilt. and 10 inches wide, and then I double fold a 1/2 inch hem in the side. But now remember I said I cut this backing not wide enough, so I've just got a little gap at the end here because I didn't cut my backing wide enough at the shop and I wasn't going to piece it again. That's all right. That'll hang quite fine. The pole will just come out the end here. Judy, depending on how long they are, as long as they're tight and they're secure and it's a strong thread, it should be all right. But if they're so long that you get little, like you can get your fingernail underneath the binding in between the stitches, then I think that's too long, and anything could catch that and rip your binding out and rip your stitches. So mine are probably 4 millimeters apart, 4 or 5 millimeters. Yes, Joe's just reminded me, and don't quilt your sleeve to the quilt because I have done that before too. But that's when I went back and did a bit more quilting after I'd already put the sleeve on. So the sleeve didn't go on until the binding was finished. I just put that on the back at the top and pin it, and then as I'm sewing my binding to the front, that secures this sleeve. Then obviously I need to stitch the bottom end. Now the way to do that is you just want to fold back 1/4 inch and just pin it down like that, nice and flat across there. And then as I'm stitching down, I'm just going to stitch from the backing and just catch one layer of the sleeve. It actually is better. So one little tip that I didn't do because I'm lazy is that you stitch your hems in on your sleeve, press it in half, then open it up and do a row of stitching 1/4 inch from that fold, and then you can actually just roll that up 1/4 inch to that stitch line, and you're going to stitch along that stitch line that's 1/4 inch up from the fold. Now why do we do that? We do that just to give this sleeve a bit of slack, so when you put the pole in, it doesn't all warp the front of your quilt. It doesn't all try and curve over like that. It'll still stay nice and flat because there's that little bit of bagginess, slack in the back side of your sleeve, so that the pole will go through there without, because it'll just go back down over your stitch line, if that makes sense. Yeah, I would a little bit, Judy, I think. I'd just be worried that something would get caught in it. Jeanette, I should put it on before I quilt, but I never remember, so I always do it after. But yes, the most secure thing is to stitch your label into your back, either piece it into your backing or applique it on before you quilt it, and then the quilting will secure it to the back of the quilt so people can't easily just, if they stole your quilt, or if it started to get a bit worn and torn over the next 100 years, then that quilting is going to keep the label much more secure. People can't just sort of quickly rip it off if they've stolen your quilt, or it's just not going to fall off if a couple of stitches on the outside come out. It's quilted in. So that's the most secure way and the way you should do it. But do as I say, not as I do, because I never remember. Plus, I hadn't decided on the name before I quilted it. So yeah, but that's a good tip to know. Are we talking? Oh, sorry, I missed some messages, Sharon. But you're talking about the colour catches. Yes, I need lots of colour catches. Oh, you're answering Michelle. Thank you. You're answering Michelle's. Yeah. Oh, just on the phone looks orange. The backing looks very retro. I love it. It's a tomato red. So, but the colour is blowing out a bit tonight. I might have to see if I can work on that a little bit. Yeah, so by next week I should have that one finished, and we're just deciding how we're going to sell it, whether it's going to be a stitch along in the academy, or whether it's going to be a monthly mail out, or whether you can buy it all in one go. So yeah, just deciding on the formatting. I think it's going to be monthly, but it's 15 months, so I could have squished it up into 12, but I thought, no, let's just do the full 15, so you don't get overwhelmed. Yeah, so that's it from me tonight. If there's no other questions, we managed to get through to the end after our little glitch when we started. Sonia, I have to say, and Fiona, I've only probably ever remembered to do it twice, but you should do it. But a label's always an afterthought, isn't it? You sort of do that when you have to, when it's going into a show or something. But no, definitely more secure if you quilt it in. Very hard to get it out then. Okay, so I think that is it for tonight. Oh no, I do have one more thing. I'm just giving you a sneak peek. All right, it's the pattern's not done yet. Maybe it might be tomorrow's job. Did 2 other patterns today. The pattern's not done, so it will only be going up for pre-order. But I thought I'd give you a sneak peek of this runner that Lauren has made for me, ready for when the Merry Little Christmas fabrics arrive in September. So it's a lovely, you're not going to be able to see it all, table runner. Can you see it there? So it was a remake of my an old Santa table runner I had in the different colours. And then we decided that the Santa stitchery that I had on the old one didn't sort of really suit the more vintagey colours. So I designed a new stitchery, and Lauren's chosen one of the, I'm sure it was a Cosmo Seasons thread. I don't think it looks a little bit antique-y, like it could be a cottage garden, but I'm sure it's a Cosmo Seasons thread to match the more muted vintagey colours of the Merry Little Christmas Tilda range that comes out in September. So if I go a little bit closer, you can have a look at the stitchery design. It's my little cardinal and some holly leaves, and then it's got the same stitchery at the other end. So it's quite long. It's about 12 inches wide, and that's 3 blocks, so 36, about 50 inches long. So it'd be lovely down the middle of a long dining table. But isn't it pretty? And I think these fabrics are just going to make everything look nice. So yeah. So there's a sneak peek at that one. Haven't got a name for that one either yet, but we'll work on something. A hexagon table. I've got a few hexagon table toppers, Fiona. Easy to sell you with that one. Not many people have a hexagon table though. Lauren used 3 strands of a Cosmo. Yeah, right. Yeah. Might be tempted, Jackie. Yeah, it is very nice. So I'll get that pattern done. I have to photograph it, rewrite the pattern, get the listing up for pre-orders, but they won't coming until September. We need an Australian bird. Yeah, I need to start doing some birds, don't I? Just the cardinal was like Christmas, but yeah, okay. Message taken. Australian birds. Okay. All right, so that's it for tonight. We've actually gone over the hour, but that was because I was a bit late starting. And Bentley's bored because he's growling at me. He's probably still wet from being covered in gin. 9010. Okay. Donna thinks it was 9010. It's written down somewhere. I have to find where she wrote it. All right, let me draw the winner because I've got lots of comments in there tonight. Everyone's given me the thumbs up for my reach. Thank you. Well, quite a few of you have. Get a winner. Judy Downing, are you still here, Judy? Judy with your big stitches, are you still here? I'll give her a minute because there's a little bit of a delay. Yeah, hopefully you picked up a few tips about different thread weights and thread uses and hoops, and even maybe a little tip for the binding. I know some of you have seen them, lots of same demos lots of times, but there's always something new to learn. Judy, are you here? Are you still? Oh, here she is. Yes. Judy, did you hear that you just got drawn? Your name just got drawn. I do prefer it, Judy. I haven't used DMC for a lot of years. My main issue with DMC was colour running, colour bleeding, particularly the reds, whereas Cosmo's a lot more particular about their threads not bleeding. And they're also now pretty much at a better price point than DMC too. Okay, well done, Judy. So if there's something else you wanted to order, just contact Jo and she'll put a prize in for you. Otherwise, we'll just send you a virtual prize. All right, that's it from me. Everyone have a great week. Oh, Christine, you were here. Hello. Everyone have a good week. Now, one other thing what did I need to remind you, Jo asked me to say. For those of you that have ordered thread sets for some of the ASO projects, if it hasn't been sent yet, it's because we're short on a couple of threads. They've been on back order for a while and they were meant to be here a while ago. So they should be on their way. So it shouldn't be too much longer on the threads. So your ASA orders will be going soon. About the upcoming bag, what should I when the bag will straight? So enough. Jo, I was going to contact you. We can have a machine here for you if you like. Don't worry about flying with one unless you're coming down for a month and you want to sew. I've got a machine for you and I've got one for Ruth who's coming from Whyalla. So, yeah. So don't worry about a machine. We'll have that because you might want to do some decorative stitches. We'll just have a basic machine so it's not too hard to work out. Yeah. Okay. What was I saying? Oh, yes, if threads haven't come, that's why. And then yesterday with the fob ends, everyone went crazy on the gold fob metal ends. And so we've run out of those and we've had to order some more. So there'll be a couple of weeks. Yeah. All right. Have a great week, everyone. And I will. Oh, Jo, did you get the email with the other requirements? Just checking that everyone got that. Did you get that? I'll just check that. Yep. Okay. Have a great Stitchy week. Got some things to finish. We'll see you all next week. And thank you for my jacket. I think it's pretty nice too.